Hi, Sarah. I'm going to give you feedback on your preaching sermon, United Church. The first thing is, I wondered what passage in Philippians are you preaching from? Because I couldn't totally figure out how that, which section exactly was being addressed the most. You did address a lot of it in there, just not quite sure exactly where. Okay, in your introduction, could misunderstanding replace perspective in your opening sentence? Since I think you're right. Our former pastor used to talk about the professional holy people as the only ones who really counted and who really had all the work to do. You use the phrase calling from or on our lives from God 3 times. Figured that was pretty important in your intro, referring to Jesus speaking of the first commandment in Genesis, but the second one as embodying the love of Christ. But that's not the second commandment. Jesus does say something similar in Matthew 22:27 through 39 when he's talking to the Sadducees. Perhaps you could rephrase it the way he did, which is, the love God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. And the second commandment is similar, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, which would be the calling from God of every believer. What you go on to say would certainly apply. If we can't love our fellow believers, how can we love others outside of the church? In paragraph 2, sentence 2, you have some unclear wording. It just says come on, and I don't know what that was referring to. Was when you were talking about the book that Lynn Cohick wrote. Uh, does she think that Christians are responsible for new heavens and a new earth with new transformed bodies? I wasn't sure about that. Doesn't that occur when Jesus comes back, not in the current age that we're in? On page 2, you talk about fruit of the Spirit, which is great. Just what are those? Because some people may not be familiar with each one of those, because then you could provide some really good examples of what Paul wants believers to demonstrate. And that shows that they're working on their sanctification. In paragraph 2, or page 2, paragraph 2, how do conviction and accountability go hand in hand with sanctification? Wasn't quite sure about the connection there. Example of how your pastor explained the damage gossip does was great. Okay, but I did get confused because I wasn't sure if she was talking about that you were part of the current gossiping group. Uh, it appeared that way. Just maybe some clarifying that. Um, and you say you do want to go on to do what's right and help others to do what's right. Uh, what would that look like in situations like this? It's an eternal problem in the church and difficult to control. How did your pastor approach changing it in your church? And you mentioned Proverbs 11. Was that helpful to you? Did she use some ways of really showing people how gossip can be damaging? She sounds like a really wonderful person. Uh, just going on to uh, page 2, the third paragraph. What was the support Paul needed from other believers? Uh, how was disunity disrupting that? How was pride interfering? What was the false teaching? Because I know it had some parts there about the Judaizers and even the Greek and the Roman influence of all their gods and everything must have been really difficult for those people. How did that relate to them becoming disunified? On page 3, when you say American context, you mentioned that a few times. Do you mean American church? Uh, do you think all of the Philippians were being unforgiving? Paul just mentions a disagreement with a couple of women, and he was mostly very encouraging towards the church for how much they were unified and how important that was. Uh, on page 3, the second paragraph, what are some ways you could provide for imitating Jesus in our behavior towards each other as believers? Since you gave your experience with gossiping, are there other times that you witnessed disagreements being solved? Uh, how did that happen? Uh, and in the last page 3, third paragraph, from the third sentence on, okay, the first sentence was really good. But the section about, talking about the reasons for us, how we got separated from uh, God in the first place. I'm not sure if that was just a little bit confusing for people that have been going through this with you. Just there on your last page, you could move the second paragraph and talk about uh, examples of encouragement and conviction and kind of end with some ways that can help believers in the church to stay unified and to also show the love of Jesus to others. Otherwise, thank you very much for letting me share and read your sermon. Hope it goes well. Bye.